god! That definitely feels quicker than the M135. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be shooting the final video on this BMW M135i, except I'm not really focusing on this car. I'm focusing on the car that's in front of me, being driven by Petrol Ped. He has got a long-termer Mini Clubman JCW, and he's had that car about the same time that I've had this, so 2 months or so. So he knows it very well. And most of you will know that actually both of these cars are very, very similar under the skin. I'm intrigued to see what that car's like to drive, what it's like in terms of practicality, and I'm really keen to see what the differences are between the two cars, because they kind of fill a similar marketplace and they're both sold to us in the same garage effectively. Let's pull over and meet Petrol Ped and then have a good look over the Clubman JCW before taking it out for a bit of a drive on these beautiful roads in this amazing weather. Before we do that, I just want to say a big shout out to my brand, controlandshift.com. I'm wearing one of our latest t-shirts, Toy Racer. We've got plenty more t-shirt designs on the website, along with things like stickers, mugs. We've also got phone mounts now as well, so please head over and check out what we got. Anything you buy is going to support my channel, so much appreciated, and thanks for all the love as always. All right guys, here we are. We parked both the cars up behind me. This is Mr. Petrol Ped next to me.
Morning everyone.
It's lovely to finally have you on the channel. I think we've just been discussing, we've known each other for about 2.5 years, and we've been talking about doing a video together for a long time. We go to a lot of similar press events, we film a lot of similar cars. He's got a fantastic channel. Pete's actually filming his own video for his own channel today, so we'll talk more about what he's filming once we get in the car. What I'm going to cover really is Pete's long-termer, which is behind us. Now Pete, how long have you had that car?
About 2.5 months.
About 2.5 months. So similar sort of time to what I've had my M135i.
Yeah.
And yeah, mine goes back next week, unfortunately, and Pete's in a couple of weeks. So it's really good timing. We both know our cars very well now, and I'm actually really excited about driving this new John Cooper Works Clubman, because I haven't driven one before, and being that it's a very similar sort of, well, underneath it's pretty much the same, isn't it? So, but I think they're actually going to be very different characters to drive. So let's find that out. In terms of the styling, you can see that it's a John Cooper Works. It's a bit more aggressive around the front. There's a nice little splitter there. You've got bigger 18-inch wheels and massive brakes and calipers behind these wheels. They literally just fit. You can get a cigarette paper in there. So you can tell if you look closely that this car is a serious bit of kit. And in the past they've been 200, 230 brake horsepower, whatever, but this one is just over 300 brake horsepower. So no messing around, just under 5 seconds to 60, but we'll talk more about that once we get in it. The easiest way to spot a Clubman over something like a 5-door Cooper is these really interesting doors, or boot openings. I don't know what you'd call them. Doors? They are doors, aren't they? And they are, yeah, they're really interesting. This harps back to the original Clubman back in whenever it was. One thing you've got to be careful with though, because the last time I used one of these cars was, if you do trigger this rear boot opening and there's a car parked behind you, it can get quite dodgy and dangerous, and these can damage another car, which I've done in the past. So just be wary and careful with that, because these are quite spring loaded. Let's have a look inside, but before we do, we're going to jump into the back of this, the M135i, because I really want to compare what they're like to live with. And in my head, this is going to be the more practical car, just because I think it's bigger inside. But let's just have a look. So I came down here in this car. That's my driving position, so we don't need to sit in the front. Let's see if I can get in the back without having to remove my knees, my muddy shoes. So actually, my knees are touching the seat, but I have got enough space in here. My head, again, is just touching the roof of the car, but I'm not feeling really uncomfortable. As I've talked about in other M135i videos, this is certainly a lot larger than the previous generation, where me sitting in the back of one of them would just be a bit of a joke. But there is room in here. I can physically fit, and I'm not feeling sort of, you know, too claustrophobic. Especially this one's got the pan roof, so there's enough nice light coming in here. Now let's try it in the Clubman. Now I've also set that driver's seat for my driving position, So this is a real fair test. At first glance, it actually looks like it's a similar sort of size. So this is going to completely ruin my theory, but let's jump inside. Sorry, Pete, I'm going to cover your car in mud. Oh, no, 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 no. Okay, so, well, ironically, headspace is almost the same, but this roof line comes down a lot further. So if I was sitting in here, as you can see now, you can't even see my eyes. That's me sitting up straight. It's definitely a lot more cramped here. I've jammed my knees in and everything just feels a lot tighter in here. I wouldn't say massively, but it's probably 10 to 15% smaller in here. And I certainly wouldn't want to spend too long in here, especially this. My head's hitting the grab handle here. Yeah, it's not designed for people over 6 foot in the back of this car, but it's nice to see I can at least fit in here, I guess. But that is definitely a negative point of this car over the M135i. Okay, let's see what they're both like sound wise from the outside. Let's start with the Mini. Oh, this is a stock exhaust. So the pops and cracks disappear after a while.
Yep. But
this is a stock, like this is out the factory.
It is. It's in sport mode, that's it.
I mean, that sounds much better than that, in my opinion. But let's go over and have a look at the M135i.
I like this job, it's good. Low skill. This in sport?
That's in sport.
Go. Ready?
Ready. Okay, so it's better than I thought, but nowhere near as good as that. Would you agree from the from the driver's seat? Yeah.
I mean, it's still crackling, but it's not crackling as good as that.
Like that, no. Okay, guys, we're now on the road in the Clubman JCW, and it feels great. Before I talk more about the car, I want to talk to Pete about. Firstly, let's just talk about your cars that you've got home. And you're a bit of a mini man. I mean, people say that I'm a BMW man,
yeah,
which I am, and you're a bit of a mini man.
I am. Yeah, not for that. I've had my Mini for about 5 years, and before that I'd never had one. Okay. But they do get under your skin. They kind of get into your soul. So I've got a Roadster, John Cooper Works Roadster, and last year I modified it quite a bit. So
a fair amount.
Yeah.
It's I mean, you use it these days. The majority of it's on like track days and stuff.
Yeah,
as well,
track
right?
days, auto solos, that kind of stuff. So stage 2 tuned 270 brake.
Pete's got good experience with minis. You've driven a lot of the modern ones,
yep,
and you've actually got something very special that's on order that's turning up pretty soon.
I've got the GP on order, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a car I'm super keen to drive. Well, you
can drive in the second I've got it, mate.
Oh, thanks, buddy, yeah. Let's just put this into context. This particular car is priced £1,000, give or take a couple of quid, less than the M135i. So they're very, very similar cars underneath, and they're very similarly priced. They both come reasonably well spec'd out the box.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
And this one, so this is 35.5 base, right?
Yeah.
And this one we're sitting in
about 37.5, I think, something like that.
Okay, so a couple of grand's worth of options. Whereas
I have the spec sheet here.
Oh, you actually have the spec sheet. You're so organised, Pete.
I know. Look, 37,425.
Okay. Well, that's a lot. Even though it's got a few options on it, it's a lot less than the 135 that I've got, which is about 43.5. Yes. Yeah. And it doesn't have. I mean, this one doesn't, but that doesn't even have things like leather on it. So there's a lot further to go with it. But I can already. The first thing I'm going to talk about in here actually is the actual the cabin feel, the driving position, etc. Driving position is actually really, really good. I like it. I actually feel like I'm sitting lower in here than I am in the M135i, and in fact most cars there's what 3-4 inches of headspace above. In terms of the actual driving position, there's loads of reach and rake adjustment on the steering. These seats, as I saw in your video, you're raving about them, and they are really good. They feel remarkably similar to the ones that are in the M135i, which are also very, very good. Yeah, I think we're going to be finding a few similar traits. In terms of the actual fit and finish, yeah, I mean, Mini interiors are fun and they're funky, and there's probably lots of really fun colours and ambient lights, and I'm sure it all changes when you boot it. But I have to say that some of the plastics in here are definitely down a level or two on the M135i, especially this new one that I've got. Even things like just opening that, just a little bit, they feel a bit sort of almost Tonka truck. So they're designed to last, but there's no, you know, it doesn't feel too premium in here. Steering wheel's really nice to touch and feel, and I like the size of it and the width of it and stuff. The touch points are decent, but you can see immediately, or feel in some cases, that you know, it is down a level compared to the car that we're comparing against today. Even down to things like the nav as well, like the controller down here. To me, that's a 10-year-old iDrive controller before it became the touch iDrive button, or whatever they call it. But it's not. There's nothing in here that's offensive. It just doesn't seem to have changed much in here compared to the last Mini that I was in about 5 years ago. The cabin seems very similar. Maybe the dials have moved around a little bit, but I don't know if you would agree.
I mean, this series of Mini is coming to the end of its life in terms of it's due a refresh. So,
yep.
And that, you always know that when the GP comes out, that's always the kind of precursor to the next series of Mini. So it
yes.
has been around a while.
Right. And that explains it. Yeah. As you say. Yeah. Whereas it's kind of unfair because the M135 that we're comparing against today is right at the start of its life. It's a brand new model. So, but really, we've already discovered it's not quite as practical as the M135i, which I had in my head. But really, what I want to find out about, and what I want to discover today, is what it's like when you knock it up into sports. Suddenly gets a lot louder. And over into sports transmission, but I'm actually going to go straight to manual. Again, we've got a four-wheel drive system in here. Oh wow, yes, it's really nice and torquey, isn't it?
Yeah.
And figures, what are we talking? Power figure on this one?
306 brake, 450 newton meters, so exactly the same as a 135.
Right, I was going to say that sounds very familiar.
Yeah. 0 to 60 times 4.9 seconds.
Yeah, I did read that, and I read I read this one's 4.9, and obviously the M135 quoted as 4.8. I can't believe that this is the 10th of a second slower. I honestly think that's BMW saying, no Mini, you sit below us, so we're going to make sure that you're a 10th slower, because to me, just in this short drive, this feels every bit as quick as the M135i, and it actually feels a little bit more responsive. I don't know what the weights are between them, but I'm guessing this is a little bit lighter.
I would guess so.
But not with you sitting next to me.
No, or you sat next to me.
Hey! Pete, what are you shooting today? What's your video going to be about, and why should people head over and watch it?
So I'm trying to do something different to you, otherwise we basically create two films exactly the same.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm looking at, I mean, I've reviewed the M135i at the launch. I was at the same event as you, and mega impressive car. Really like the car. So I'm going to view that from, as a, if you like, a Mini perspective, but try and rank them on 10 different things.
Okay.
So, and those 10 different things are things like interior, exterior looks, driving comfort, performance, that kind of thing. And at the end of those 10 things, add up the scores and see which one wins.
Okay, oh, that sounds really interesting. One of the options that this particular car's got is the Mini head-up display. So it's kind of like a little screen that pops up out of the dashboard effectively, but it works really well. And I love the graphics on it on this one. You've got kind of like, when I'm in sports, you've got this rev counter, and yeah, it's really sporty looking thing, isn't it?
Take it up to the red line, it flashes at you.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh well, we'll have to try that once we get out of this town now. So let's put it, everything's in sports now. Let's see what this car's like when you start pushing it a little bit. So into second gear. Oh yes. Well, firstly, again, it feels every bit as quick, if not a bit quicker than the M135i. It sounds better in here. It doesn't even sound like the same engine. It sounds completely different. And again, watching your video, it kind of came across as sounding a fair amount different. The gearbox, although it's the same, it definitely feels like it's calibrated differently. It goes down the gearbox better than the M135i. On the way up, it's just as quick, but it feels great. It feels really good. It feels more fun than the M135i in this 10 minutes of being behind the wheel. And I guess that's Mini, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Mini. It's that. I mean, their strapline is go-kart feel, but
yeah,
every Mini you drive, even the bigger ones, and I know a lot of people say it's not really a Mini because they're huge, but what I love about this, even though it's the kind of estate format, Mini still call this really a hatch. They view it as a hatch, and it doesn't drive that differently to the Mini hatch.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't pay a penalty for being bigger and more practical.
No, and it's probably a bit more stable with the longer wheelbase than the hatch is in certain scenarios. I think we've got a nice corner coming up here. Yeah.
How many people go straight on there?
Oh, it feels great handling wise. I have to say that this has also got some Michelin Pilot Super Sports on it, I think, which are a hell of a lot better than the eco-saving tyres that are on the M135i. I really don't think they help. And Pete and I were talking about this off camera. Why would a manufacturer spend so much time and money making something work so well, setting a chassis up so well, and then putting some really average tyres on it? You know, the tyres are the last things that come into contact with the ground, and in my opinion, they're super, super important. I know we both do a lot with tyre manufacturers.
They are the only thing that connects you to the road.
They are the only thing, yeah.
And it amazes me, people who buy budget tyres or think, oh, I'll just get a cheap one.
Yeah.
It's the only thing.
The only thing. And at this time of year, it's the only thing that's going to spit you off the road as well, because poor tyres, cheap tyres, they just turn to plastic in this sort of weather. Right, let's do a launch control because we've got a nice big gap. There's nothing between us.
So turn your traction off.
Yep.
I think that should be off now.
And then just over into sports.
Yeah.
Oh my God! That definitely feels quicker than the M135. My sunglasses almost flew off my head.
Is that push when it goes up here?
Yes. And there's a bit of a hesitation initially off the line, which is something actually I want to talk about. This gearbox, it's not perfect. It's good at certain things. It's very good and very quick at upshifting, like almost completely seamless. Downshifting, I don't know this car well enough, but in the M135i it sometimes hesitates.
It's a bit lazy.
It's a bit lazy. And also the worst thing about I find with this gearbox is pulling out of junctions sometimes, or slow pull-offs and stuff. There's a hesitation, and I mean, like, it feels like it's 3 or 4 seconds in your head, but it's usually probably half a second. But it's that initial, what's going on, let's go, let's get out of this junction, and that I don't know. I really don't like that, and I've already experienced it once in this car, and I've experienced it a few times in the M135i. But you know, it's not a ZF8 speed, it's not that good, but if anything it probably changes gear quicker going up the box than a ZF8 speed. But in this car it does feel like they've calibrated it slightly different. Oh, the sound's great. The brakes feel really, really good.
Yeah, they are. I challenge anyone to get in a Mini, whether you like them or not.
Yeah.
I mean, I know lots of people that watch your channel probably aren't Mini people at all, and they'll look at Mini and go, get in a Mini, drive it, and tell me it doesn't put a smile on your face.
Yeah, come back without a smile on your face. I dare you. No, I mean, that's I agree. Every time I've ever borrowed and driven one, even diesel Minis, there's something that's just a bit fun and comical about them. They don't take themselves too seriously.
Even on the public road, you can drive them, you know, within the speed limit and have a great time. But when you get them on a track or an airfield and you push them beyond that, they're really, really competent cars. Really quick, very stable around the corners. They're a good little package.
On short drives especially, this is definitely going to be more entertaining and more fun than the M135i. But the trade-off of that is you are lacking in here in some of the quality of the trims, the infotainment system. It just feels a bit more dated in here, and also things like boot space and rear cabin space is the trade-off. Performance figures, we know they're very similar. It's the same engine, same gearbox. I'm guessing around the circuit with the same tyres on, they're probably very similar in terms of times, but this just makes a better sound and it puts a bigger smile on your face.
And I mean, I've done 4,500 miles in this car, and on a long run, it's super comfy.
Yep.
It's quite relaxing. Yet when you get off the motorway onto a B road, you have good fun. Infotainment isn't great, but it's got wireless Apple CarPlay, so I just use that.
Yeah.
Stick Waze on it for your sat nav, and
away you go.
And that, happy days then.
Yeah, nice. Okay, Pete. Well, thanks a lot for letting me rag your car.
It's Mini's car, mate.
It's Mini's car. Yeah, you do what you want to. But yeah, guys, please make sure to go over and check out Pete's channel, and press the big subscribe button as well, because honestly, the subscribe button means so much to both of us. So many manufacturers and brands just look at that number, which is really annoying for us too, because we both got very focused audience. So make sure you press that. And also, he's on Instagram. Not many people seem to know this. When we need to get his numbers up on Instagram, so make sure you go and follow him on Instagram, and support the fellow YouTubers.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, let's go and shoot your video.
Yeah. Look forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, check that one out as well. Thanks, guys.